Rob DiLauro, and with me as always is the Selina Kyle of the group, Miss JennaSayWhat. Jenna, what's going on?
Hey, not too much.
And Miss Di Marie. Di, what's going on?
Hello.
First of all, guys, I want to thank you so much for your continued love and support. Of course, from Comic Book Movie and from you, everybody has been so kind when it comes to the show. Please use that comment section, to let us know what you're into, all your thoughts and feelings. And, just hit that like and subscribe button. It just helps get out to more people. So thank you so much for the love that you are giving the Indiana Jones episode. And we actually have a new anniversary that we're focusing on today. If you guys aren't familiar with the world of Gotham, then obviously these two ladies are dressed as Catwoman to honor, if I would dare say, the greatest Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer. Of course, we're going to be talking about Batman Returns later. So before that, we've got a little bit of Top Jedi news. Not too much this week, but pretty huge things coming out of the pipeline as we speak today. So, Jenna, what's going on in Top Jedi?
So they have Loki's came out of the closet. MCU has made it official that Loki is bisexual, and they confirmed it in this last episode. Spoiler alert! But I am so happy and so proud. Us GBLTQ plus peeps are like, yes, finally we get our man. Like, we always knew. I mean, but now it's official, and I personally feel great about it. It makes me very happy.
Diana, what's going on in Top Jedi?
So there's a lot going on for American Horror Story fans. Ryan Murphy and Hulu just released a trailer for the American Horror Story spinoff called Double Feature. So according to the poster, it looks like it's going to represent maybe a mermaid and aliens. From what it was described, it'll be about one by land and one by sea. So that's going to be really interesting to see how they dive into that. And it will be 10 episodes long. This is going to premiere on FX on August 25th. And then we also got a trailer for American Horror Stories. This will be premiering on July 15th. It's going to be 16 one-hour episodes.
So in Top Jedi news, I had mentioned before, I can't really get into details, but I've done some work for old Joe Bob Briggs before. But if you guys are fans of Last Drive-In, that's on every Friday night on Shudder, when the seasons drop, it was kind of melancholy on the last episode that featured Roger Corman. And it didn't feel like they were getting a new season. But today, it was announced that they're not only going to do some holiday specials, but they're also getting season 4. So Joe Bob and Diana will be back to host Last Drive-In every Friday, which is super exciting. And me being a drive-in mutant personally, it was so great to see everybody's excitement tonight, because it's pretty big news for a lot of people. So if you guys aren't fans of Last Drive-In, check that out. When it drops their season next time on Shudder every Friday night, 2 movies. And Joe Bob gets to. It's weird because when we're doing the Indiana Jones episode, I was wearing that hat and I was talking in great detail about film, and I kind of felt like Joe Bob that night, which is super weird, but definitely an honor for sure. Jenna, what's next in Top Jedi?
So another Suicide Squad trailer dropped today. So everybody knows that I was excited. Today was a great day. So it seems like we're getting a lot more action sequences. We're seeing a lot more little comedic relief in there. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like Polka Dot Man or not, because honestly, I read the comics but never read about him. So I was like, who is this guy? And he seems like he is going to be hilarious during that movie. I have high hopes for him. They introduced the Weasel in it, which I was wondering what that was, and now
he's friendly, even though he killed 28 children.
Yes, and Harley just is oh God, I love her so much.
Just perfect.
She's amazing. She's I'm just so stoked about her. We got more Peacemaker, a little bit of his personality. It seems like he's strict by the books,
He's John
asks
Cena.
no questions, just kind of like, he's just kind of dumb. Like, I guess he's like a little bit dumb. Like, I don't know, but.
Well, I believe the question was, we're talking about starfish, which means, that has to do with butthole. Was that everything?
Buttholes, yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's like, okay, all right, but yeah, so we got a little bit more of him, and I highly recommend, if you haven't seen the trailer, go watch it not right now, watch this and then go watch that. That's the order.
So next in Top Jedi news, this is a really interesting one, because I remember, over a year ago, actually, he was saying that he did not want any Netflix films within the Oscar race. Steven Spielberg was completely against Netflix. And what a difference a year makes, because apparently he had a meeting with the president of Netflix, Ted Sarandos, and they just signed a deal that Amblin Entertainment is going to be doing a lot of stuff officially for Netflix, including 2 feature films a year, which Steven Spielberg himself is actually going to direct himself. So, things are changing. Steven Spielberg now part of the streaming world, which is pretty exciting and weird at the same time.
Yeah, it is a little weird, isn't it? Yeah, it's like, I think it's because like we were conditioned as kids to see like, TV shows just being like kind of, you get some actors, but you never get big names. And if you get a big name, it's like, oh my God, it's a cameo. And it's like 5 seconds long. It's like Shaq walking through Full House. Like, and then that's it. So having like a movie, like an actual, like a big name, director coming down and being like, all right, a TV show. And you're like,
what?
It's such a weird
well,
world.
I think the other thing too is like, Steven Spielberg is technically part of the old squad. So when you see these guys like, Scorsese or Spielberg or, Francis Ford Coppola, like these guys, like signing on a dotted line when it comes to streaming services, when they're so impassioned about the theatrical experience being church, you know what I mean? Like it's very strange, but we're in a moment where money talks. Steven Spielberg's got a great deal because anything that Amblin Entertainment puts out, Netflix foots the bill. So he's not only making money off of Netflix, they're paying for all the productions out of their own pocket. So this is a win-win, obviously. And Steven Spielberg, to me, I don't know the guy, but I would hope that he's not just some money-making shill. I really doubt that. I think he's more of a storyteller, and he's actually passionate about the stuff that he's created, like throughout his career. Diana, what is next in Top Jedi? This is actually exciting, not only for you that you're telling the news, but for me as well. But we'll get into that in a second. But there's a book coming out next week. One of my favorite movies, actually. So what's going on in Tarantino land?
So obviously, Rob and I are huge fans of Quentin Tarantino. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is going to be released in a novel form by Quentin. This will be released on June 29th. So basically with this story, Quentin's going to be breathing a new life into the characters and the story premise from the movie. He's voiced that he's a huge 70s movie novelization fan. So he's going to be trying to incorporate that in his story, which I think he's going to knock it out of the park.
Yeah, there's a couple things I need to say about this one. This is the dawning of a new age for Tarantino. And this is, like sad for me in the fact of I'm excited for him and his new venture, but I think Quentin Tarantino is saying goodbye to film. That this is what I think he wants to do. He wants to get into producing and screenplays and being a father.
Yeah, I believe he only wanted to do a certain amount of films before, and then he was done. So
when I was 14 years old, it was right around the time that Pulp Fiction came out, and I was already like really kind of into the indie pipeline, when it comes to, just being a fan of those films and stuff. So Quentin Tarantino was like a rock star for me instantly. I was working at a video store at the time. I wish I still had it, but my mother actually cut out a clipping and it said video store clerk becomes rock star director. And it was actually about Quentin Tarantino. And, that whole thing with him, like being so impassioned about film and stuff. Like, obviously it was years and years later, but here I am now, almost 13 years into this industry because of the fact of me being passionate about this and, wanting to kind of see if I can step foot into it. So yeah, Quentin Tarantino is a major factor when it comes to where I'm at. And, like, I don't know, I'm excited for him. I think this book's going to be amazing. I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And really, honestly, all there is to say, guys, if you are a fan of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and, you wanted to know if Cliff Booth actually killed his wife, for example, like, this is the book to do it.
No,
you know what I mean? This is, this is not the screenplay. This is actually something that Tarantino wrote on the side, for Rick Dalton, for Cliff Booth, for, Sharon Tate, Margot Robbie's version of Sharon Tate. So you get to see so much more of these characters. Tonight, as we speak, guys, we got a trailer that I literally, and I don't care what anybody thinks, honestly, like, I teared up when it comes to the Halloween Kills trailer that we saw today.
I was so happy.
And I had mentioned to these ladies before, I was born in 1978. I took a trek out to Austin, Texas a couple of years ago to talk to Jamie Lee Curtis for 5 minutes. That's how much this movie means to me. And if the tattoo isn't a dead giveaway, blah, 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 blah. This, to me, this wasn't just a trailer. And it really felt like, it felt like affirmation that life is coming back to normal, because we had actually been told this movie was going to come out, guaranteed 2021. But we didn't know with the pandemic and, actually me personally getting COVID twice during that. And just, the state of the world and just the state of, just the entertainment industry as a whole, like, we never really saw or had an understanding of where it was going, but it feels like it's normal again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this trailer means to me. It feels like we're at a precipice and we're at a good place. You know what I mean? And Michael Myers is finally home and we're going to be able to see him theatrically again, which is, I mean, I don't know. I was really obviously very happy about this trailer and, I think it meets all expectations. And, to be quite honest with you guys, I'm sure people would be like, well, what does that mean? But I really feel like I was waiting for this movie my entire life. That's how I feel.
In Batman news, kind of, sort of, hopefully, Michael Keaton was seen on the set of Flash. And me personally, I'm really hoping and fingers crossed that he's like an older Bruce Wayne, because like
Batman
Michael
Beyond
Keaton was my Batman. I loved him as Batman. God, like, it was just such a good film, and I love him as Batman so much.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and I'm so glad that we're talking about it today.
Well, the thing is, with this trailer, obviously I feel the same way that you do, and we'll get into it, when we mention, Batman Returns. But yeah, seeing Michael Keaton, even just, with gray, just with gray hair was just like, oh my God, like, this is Bruce Wayne.
Incredible.
He's back.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really hoping, and this is just, just positing a theory. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm hoping that through this Flash movie, maybe they're using Batgirl or something, I don't know, but there could be a Batman Beyond parallel here, where an older Bruce Wayne gets to teach a younger whatever.
Yes, I love that idea.
That could be, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I'm not quite there yet when it comes to Keaton, but when and maybe it's not just me, when we finally see him in the Bat cape and cowl, everybody's losing their minds. Like, it's gonna be crazy. So as we said before, we're gonna be talking about Batman Returns, and what's really interesting is Batman '89 is actually celebrating an anniversary right now as well. But in the grand scheme, when it comes to the summer '89, if you were actually familiar with that growing up, you just remember the phenomenon that it was.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really not too much to talk about when it comes to Batman '89. So we really wanted to focus on Batman Returns because, it's an interesting journey when it comes to this movie. So to give a bit of history, Tim Burton did not want to come back to this film. He refused, actually. because he didn't want to work with the writer of the original, Sam Hamm, because Sam wanted to do something that was more akin to, like, I don't know, like a Goonies story or something, where Catwoman and Penguin like gather together for a treasure hunt or something.
Yeah.
Tim Burton was like, no way, not gonna happen.
I want that in a totally different storyline. I would like to see that, just not in a movie form, like maybe in a comic.
Yeah, definitely. Which is, Sam Hamm, just in passing, there's a Batman 89 comic series coming out later this year, which he's actually a writer on, the main writer on. So that should be interesting, because this is going to open up the world of 89 Gotham like we've never seen before. And, we'd mentioned, now we live in a time where, just like Indiana Jones, who just happened to hurt himself, Harrison Ford, get well soon. But Michael Keaton's, back in the forefront as, Bruce Wayne, the one that a lot of us think is, the quintessential version, I would say.
He's my favorite.
Oh, yeah. So Batman Returns, is more gothic horror, aside, from it just being a superhero film about Batman. And this is around the time where Batman comics started to get darker and all the campiness kind of got thrown out the window. So I think Tim Burton was kind of, focusing on more of, just a darker story, when it comes to, these characters that are introduced and, just the feel of it and the style and everything. So there was a lot of controversy when it came out, because a lot of families were thinking they were coming to some rollicking adventure, and it turned out to be this horrifying, kind of feminist, sort of story. And, they were selling McDonald's toys.
I got some. I had some at some point.
So like they were catering this movie to children, and like parents were just like, oh my God, like, so it was just like a whole thing with that. So as we said, we're talking about Batman Returns. For me, just like, Batman 89, this movie is very special to me. It's definitely on the top of my list, when it comes to superhero films. I think it's perfect in so many ways, but, I just want to get your feeling on it, guys. So like, what are your thoughts, and what does, Batman Returns mean to you? Di, start off with you.
So right off the bat, when you watch this movie, it definitely has Tim Burton's signature feel to it. So I thought that was great. As I mentioned before, I am studying to be a special effects artist. So makeup is something that I pay really close attention to. So just seeing the prosthetics that Danny DeVito had to go through, and how he's basically is Penguin as soon as he was in the role, I really loved how they did that. And also the fact that Michelle Pfeiffer was a goddess in this movie. So
yeah. Jenna, what did you think of Batman Returns? What were your thoughts on it when you had seen it when you were young?
So I'm a huge Tim Burton fan, and I'm also a huge Danny Elfman fan. And also go check out his new album. It's good. But I grew up loving them. So like I was already kind of biased, but whenever it comes to Gotham, especially this specific style of Gotham, like I really like there's controversy about like where Gotham actually is on the map. And I'm a Chicago girl, so I'm gonna, go with my Chicago, soul and say it's from there, because like a lot of the architecture and looks of the buildings look like old Chicago, like the old architecture and things like that. The statues, the especially like the graveyards. It seems so Chicago to me that I was just like, oh, my heart. And it's just such a beautiful movie, like from start to finish, and I love it. Again, full biased opinion, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. The music was phenomenal. It was beautiful. Everything, even the soundtrack is amazing.
When it comes to Penguin, like you'd mentioned, Danny DeVito and the special effects wizards that turned him into just this slobbering, globbering monster, basically. Like he he really fell into that role. And for people that aren't familiar, he got so deep into that role when it comes to like doing that and all that stuff, that he actually scared the monkey that was on the set, and the monkey went after his balls. So it's actually good that he had all that latex on, because that monkey would have done some damage. But yeah, when it comes to Penguin, he, obviously there is a sympathy attached to the fact that this young Cobblepot got thrown away by his family, and had to live in the sewers amongst the penguins and the clowns and all that stuff. But I don't know. There was also this aspect of just being a complete and utter sleazebag, just the way he talked to women, and Selina Kyle in general, and so it kind of took away from that sympathy, which was nice. So you didn't necessarily go like, oh, like every single time you saw the Penguin, like he was kind of gross. So obviously, like you were talking about, like Devito and his special effects. But Jenna, like, did that Penguin stand out for you, like that rendition?
Yeah, I thought Danny DeVito did a phenomenal job. I'm a big Danny DeVito fan.
Me too.
He's our patron saint at KatsuCon, so
nice.
He is a patron saint there. So I definitely love Danny DeVito in this. Even going back, and I watch this movie quite frequently. It is a Christmas movie, so but going back and rewatching it like this year, it was just like, yeah, he's gross. And I love the fact that Danny can play these like gross characters, but still be somehow charismatic too. At the same time, you're still inexplicably drawn into this gross character. It's the same thing with like Frank Reynolds from Always Sunny.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like Frank Reynolds.
Gross and like,
yeah.
And you're just inexplicably drawn to Frank Reynolds. You're just like, I love this character. Why do I love this character? It's the same thing with the Penguin kind of trope, is he's gross, but you're inexplicably drawn to him. Hence why he like got mayor, like he was, running for mayor. So
yeah, that's exactly what I thought about Frank Reynolds. Like, Frank Reynolds, well, he might as well live in a sewer. He lives with Charlie in his shitty, horrible apartment. So, you know what I mean? It's pretty much the same thing as a sewer, but, without the latex.
They do go in the sewer from time to time.
That's right.
Like, yeah.
So let's talk about Michelle Pfeiffer's interpretation of Selina Kyle. Now, there's been, obviously there's been, Batman the Animated Series and Batman 66, before this or whatever, but and even now there's been different interpretations of these two characters and their their kind of torrid and strange love affair within the comics and all that. But this is probably the best interpretation I've seen of Selina Kyle and Bruce Wayne, simply because Tim Burton caught on to something that I don't think a lot of people do. Usually like Selina Kyle is dressed like, like your version, Jenna, like, she's just a regular thief in the night and, whatever. But I think Selina is supposed to be fractured just like Bruce Wayne. You know what I mean? Like Bruce and Selina are the mask that they wear on the outside. And, Batman and Catwoman are actually the people they are within. You know what I mean? Like that's who they truly are. And the thing I loved about this one in particular, especially, seeing it as a kid and stuff, just like all these other strong women that we mentioned on the show in the past, Michelle Pfeiffer wasn't completely in your face, like, I'm the strong character, like, right away. You know what I mean? She, what many would call a quote unquote lowly secretary, and she lives in a small, well, actually, her apartment was pretty nice, for
it was
honestly,
just saying. But anyway, she was a lowly secretary, and she was getting abused by her boss, Max Schreck, played by Christopher Walken. And, like, we saw her really, become who she truly is when she, has that resurrection scene. You know what I mean? Like, that's who she truly is. Like, she's a woman who just had this primal scream inside of her this entire time. She was interpreted as not necessarily sexual, but she oozed, like sexuality, but it wasn't who she was. And it was never, aside from, some filthy stuff the Penguin said to her. It was never like, it wasn't the forefront thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like what did you guys think of Michelle Pfeiffer when you saw her like growing up as a little girl and like, seeing, that femininity, that, that feminist aspect and that power in a different way? I don't think it's ever been seen before. Maybe like, 9 to 5 with like Dolly Parton or something like that. But,
because I saw this as a kid. And I grew up with this movie. So like, I've always been a huge fan of this film specifically, but, growing up, like I felt like watching it, like for the first few years of my life, I was like, okay, I really like Selina, but I have no idea why I'm like so attracted to her and like girl crushy. And as a teenager, I rewatched it, and like, as someone that was being abused heavily at the time, and having men, like older men, like making passes at me, having all this like weird sexual stuff coming at you as a teenager going through puberty, and like you're just like, ew, what is going on? So when she just goes and destroys that apartment, I was like screaming with her, and I was just like, do it! Like, as she's like stuffing the stuffed animals down the disposal, a part of me was like, no, wait. But then the most part of me was like, do it! Like, it felt so good to watch someone else just rage out and have all that anger that's built up inside of you. And like the fact that she destroys that apartment that's all pink and girly and very, very, very conservative and very like, very not who she truly is. So watching her destroy that apartment was so cathartic, because it's like, she's destroying a part of her life that she wants nothing to do with, that was not her.
The whole aspect of what women are supposed to be was just like completely inverted and dropped on its head. And I think that's the most beautiful aspect of this character. Is she is, like, she's the anti-woman in so many ways, especially like, in that time period where, you're growing up as a teen and you're hearing, like, you should wear this and you should use this kind of fragrance, use this, this and that, blah, blah, blah.
It was during the runway years. It was whenever runway models and you had to be a certain look, a certain thing. And it sucked being a teenager in that time, because you really did feel that pressure a lot.
It's just really refreshing, because I can relate to Catwoman as far as like, what she's experienced with sexism in the workplace and things like that. I had a pretty bad experience a couple years ago. So just seeing her like stand up for herself and just be done with everything, I loved watching that, because that's basically what I did too. I also wanted to shout out to the acting skills that Michelle Pfeiffer had in this movie, because what I noted, or when I was doing my research on the movie, I noticed that the scene where she places the bird in her mouth when she's in the room with Penguin was actually real. So that was awesome. And the fact that Michelle Pfeiffer was able to act in this movie with a vacuum sealed costume onto her body was amazing.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. This costume was, kind of a character within itself, because, like, the more damage she got, the more damage that costume got. You know what I mean? Because the more damage she got, the more fighting she was doing with, Bruce Wayne on rooftops and stuff. So, it was her, coming into her own and who she truly is, as a person. We had mentioned before that, like I had said that I think this film is gothic horror, and there are a lot of horrific elements to it, in regards to, not only, like, obviously the intern says something really screwed up to him and he ends up saying, well, at least I'm not gushing blood. And Penguin goes after a guy's nose and basically rips it off of his face. There's blood spurt that just flies everywhere. And that's when I, even as a kid, like as a horror fan, I was just like, oh my God, like, this is where we're going. Like, this is, you know what I mean? Like, that was shocking at that time, because it was like, oh my God, like this is like, there's blood in a Batman movie. Like, that's crazy. But of course, the idea of, the fact that Penguin, or Oswald Cobblepot, was a son that was thrown away. He wanted to take away all of Gotham's firstborn sons. take them into a rubber duck or, whatever it was.
Yep.
It was a, big, circus cages and stuff, and then just drown them in the sewer water. Like that was the plan.
Yep.
Like, and, like in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to actual, like, superhero storytelling, there's a lot of dark stories in Batman. So, but like when it comes to to a feature film like this, like that was just like, oh my God, like,
yeah.
So is there anything that stood out to you guys in regard to the actual, like, the horrific aspects of it that were kind of surprising?
So the end, where Catwoman goes up to Max and she's like, come here, Santa Claus, give me a kiss, and like just destroys him. And like whenever Batman pulls the metal off of him, I was just like, oh my God, like it was so gruesome and so like bad, but at the same time you're like, get it, girl. Like it made you so happy because it was like her getting her just desserts and like, sucking it to him. And I was just like, yeah, I get it. Like I thought it was beautiful, like at the end, like just to have that mean old dude like get it. So
well, that's that's the interesting thing, to get into the relationship of these two, Selina Kyle and Bruce Wayne. It kind of caps off with that scene that you were just talking about where she takes the taser and like gives Christopher Walken a kiss. But before that, it's like he basically like he reveals himself to her, and to Max Schreck, you know what I mean? And, like he's ready to just give his all to this woman. And she's just like, it would be beautiful. We can live in a house together and this and that. And she goes, I couldn't live with myself. You know what I mean? Like, yep. She's not that kind of woman. She's not this happily ever after woman. She wants to live the life that she wants to live.
Yep.
And you know what I mean? Like that is so beautifully represented there. And, just the fact that their relationship was so, like he wanted to kind of protect her in a way, but at the same time, like she felt like, well, like at first they didn't necessarily know who each other was, but there is that beautiful line where they're on the rooftop and, like obviously they look up and they see mistletoe and he goes, mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it. And she says, but a kiss can be even deadlier if you mean it. Which is, played into the gala scene where, that's reverberated, that quote is reverberated again, and they obviously know who they are at this point. I guess the final question I'll ask you when it comes to this film is that, obviously, like, it didn't necessarily take with a lot of people, you know what I mean? But, here we are 32 years later talking about this movie. Do you think that it holds up as the great quote unquote superhero films? What are your thoughts on that? Because, it might be just like, it's good for me or whatever, but, it's not my favorite, which is fine. I would me personally, I would call this film masterful in so many ways. But, what are your thoughts, Diana, on its longevity and, where it stands now?
I mean, you can definitely tell that this was an early 90s movie, but just with the style that Tim Burton put into this film, I think that it stands up for what it's representing. It's kind of like a more, I guess, lighthearted, comical version of Batman that isn't as serious as what we have today, if that makes sense. But
it's deeply satirical, but it's very dark.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't have the serious tone that we've been seeing in newer films.
No, absolutely not. Like the Nolan films, absolutely not. No.
Yeah, but to answer what you were asking earlier, when I see this movie, I don't really think of it as like a superhero movie. Like when I think of superheroes, I think of like the Avengers and things like that. Yeah. But with this movie, it just seems like its own, I don't even know. It's just its own entity.
Yeah, it really does stand out. It does stand out. It's even if it's supposed to be a sequel, it does kind of stand out as its own thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like like I wouldn't necessarily even like that would be the easiest thing to do is like if you're having a double feature, you're going to play Batman '89, and then you're going to play this. But I think this kind of like is different from '89.
Yeah.
So that's our show. Thank you very much for your continued love and support when it comes to, like every episode that we put out there. We love doing it. Please like and subscribe. It helps us get out to more people. And, join us for the next couple weeks because, if you are fans of Marvel, we are getting back into Marvel territory. We're going to open the Red Ledger of Miss Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow. We're going to look into her timeline and her history, and give our ideas on what we think of the character, and maybe where she could go, or and that'll also end up in our Black Widow review, which is actually the week after that. That's our show. Talk to you soon. Bye.